Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 20 today for the Mexican Grand Prix in Season 1. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the US Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was maybe the most crucial race for our championship fight versus McLaren, because we just played that to the absolute maximum in terms of strategy, working as a unit, working with our teammate, team orders, multi-21 was enforced there. Drogovic got the P7, we got the P8, and we got some crucial points over McLaren into the last three races where you never know what's going to happen, so it's nice to be back ahead of them in the Constructors' Championship. We've still got 3 episodes, so that's still 3 chances for them to re-overtake us. So the fight's not over, but, having obviously lost ground at Japan in the way we did, it was really nice to be able to bounce back straight away at the USGP. Going into this episode then, at the moment, before we do any practice programs, don't exactly have enough R&D points to purchase anything that we were looking at. We do get an upgrade that comes in from a Red Bull side of things, so if you go all the way to the bottom of the engine department, we can see all the upgrades that the power unit supplier themselves will bring. So Red Bull powertrains, had brought in another upgrade for us, so that should be a good booster for pure speed down these straights. And obviously Mexico, it's a massive compromise. It's a really weird one, because unlike Italy, you do actually have to have a bit of downforce, because Sector 2, you're going so quickly through that sector, changing direction so quickly. That little bit of wing is going to be advisable, so having an extra engine power upgrade from Red Bull powertrain side is an aid, because that will just straight away help us in the straights no matter what. But I'm hoping this could, like Italy, be a good one for our team, because generally speaking, we have gone well when it's been a circuit where we can try and maybe abuse the straight line speed with some setup changes, or just in general versus other teams. We've been pretty actually okay. Although the AI do have that OP slipstream, we've been able to counteract that as of late with a bit of setup work, with a bit of, lowering of the wings, and just generally a race where we can push a bit harder and it's not all dependent on out-and-out downforce, which we're still lacking a little bit, I think, versus rival teams very close to us. But also, it is just so close so far in the season, so it's been so track dependent. I think you're seeing, some teams like, Haas, for example, Haas and Alfa Romeo, some races they've been, very strong. Some they've been fighting us directly, like the Japanese Grand Prix. So with the R&D graph, we've seen the convergence, and because of that convergence, things are already kind of, track to track, just very variable. But anyway, as I've been talking about that, we've been doing the Autocross here in Mexico, and I wanted to show you the full length of the Autocross challenge here in Mexico. So I actually really enjoyed this one. It was quite a challenge, actually, with the gates spaced out the way they were in the first part of it, and then in the last section as well, just trying to make sure we get under this 150 time to get the goal, to get the extra acclaim and the 100k, having to really wring the neck out of the car, but at the same time really judge where the gates are going to be placed, where we need to brake. And yeah, so it was actually quite a fun pretty hot lap to do around Mexico. I tweeted about this, but I've already got to the point where they're very much now a novelty, so it's very rare now that I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'm really excited to do one. So I was actually quite surprised in Mexico how much fun I actually had doing that one. But the last couple of few have been a bit of a chore, I can't lie. But anyway, we go through the other chore, which is practice, and we go through and get a load of R&D points once again through the quick practice programs. That does mean we are able to buy the front downforce upgrade that will mirror the rear downforce package that we've already bought. So those two, again, we're keeping that balance of front to rear upgrades on the aero side of things. And then when it comes to the engine side, we actually have enough R&D points to buy another engine power upgrade. It's a minor one, but it also costs so little because we've had so many discounts on it. So into the last 2 races, this will be Sao Paulo and then Abu Dhabi, we actually still will climb a bit further in this R&D chart, and you can see we're actually very close now to Haas and Alfa Romeo. So depending on what they do, we could actually very very weirdly end the season already in a position that we kind of wanted to start Season 2 in, you know, being right in the middle of the pack, you know, maybe the 5th or 6th best car on the grid, which would be a really weird but also awesome vibe to go in, because we know we've adapted the car completely, so we know we're not going to lose performance, so we can only gain, basically, the AI lose a bit of performance themselves from not adapting. So I think we're actually in a really amazing position. It did feel like quite a grind to get to this point with the reduced R&D that we all voted for at the start of this series, or you guys voted for rather, but like I said, eventually there's a snowball effect of now we've got enough acclaim to open up the facilities, we're earning enough R&D just about to have a nice trickle of upgrades, you know, every 2-3 episodes, and we've now got to a point where we can springboard a bit, I think, into next season. But now here we come into the Saturday for the Mexican Grand Prix. We're here on our second flying lap, this is, because the first flying lap in Q1 was a little bit pointless. It was just trying to get used to the car. Very, different circuit to come to off the back of Japan. Like I said, that compromise of wanting to have a good car in a straight line, so running a little bit lower wings, but needing just enough to make Sector 2, obviously, through that very tight technical section. And we do gain 1 second on the second flyer in Q1 to get us through into the next session. Drogovic, though, again, showing some promise on a Saturday in P7. And, this is kind of, well, if we're here in Q3, that would be a very great place to be. But we're also aided in our fight versus McLaren with Daniel Ricciardo being knocked out. Lando Norris up there, but Ricciardo at least has one less McLaren to worry about in the race. And then also Carlos Sainz had a bit of a nightmare as one of the Ferraris is knocked out, but at least for Ferrari's sake, it wasn't Leclerc, and he can be there to fight Verstappen directly in Q3, you'd assume, as we now are here being blocked by George Russell on our first flying lap in Q2. He really left it late to let us through, and we went deep into the next corner, and that is going to get us onto the curb and spin us around. Thankfully not into the wall, so we can continue on with Q2, but now we only have 1 lap to go, basically, because that is basically a useless lap. And so we go again, but on the second run, I actually am 2 tenths down in the first sector compared to that first flying lap, so that's rather annoying. This is the point, though, where we got held up by George Russell, and even the exit of that right-hander, we gained time that we were being blocked by Russell. Then here, you can see now I'm much tighter on that left-hander. We completely miss out the curb on the right, so I'm going to blame Russell for that, because essentially I was so annoyed with him blocking me that I think I just went too deep thinking about it into that left-hander that put us on the curb. So 13.2 seconds gained, I think that was. No idea what that's going to be. Oh wow, no, that is nowhere where I was hoping us to be. Drogovic gets through into Q3 in P10, but we finished this qualifying P15. I really thought we had a good chance of getting both cars through into Q3, or maybe even just one of us in P10 and one of us in P12 or 11 at least, but P15 behind Albon, and just in between the 2 Williams cars. And actually, to be fair to the Williams team, they've done well to both get through into the second part of quali anyway. But yeah, so disappointing day for me. Drogovic again showing a bit more what the car can do, so we have some making up to do tomorrow. I'm getting the vibe that AI are consistently going to have some engine penalties here, so you never know, we could move up the grid, and then we'll see where we can go from there. Let's find out. Let's go to Sunday.
It's time then for the Mexico City Grand Prix, a race which gave Honda their first ever victory in 1965. American Richie Ginter winning from 3rd on the grid. And what of the Honda-powered cars this year? Red Bull have been strong here in recent seasons. Can they keep that record going today? At 2,285 meters above sea level, the thin air of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez poses a unique challenge, not just to a driver's skill, but to the efficiency of their engines as well. 17 corners then make a lap of this 2.6-mile circuit, expecting incredible speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour and overtaking into the braking zones of turns 1 and turn 4. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, Charles Leclerc alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Norris, Esteban Ocon and Bottas, Vettel, Russell, Verstappen, the owner driver, Drogovic, Magnussen, Alex Albon and Latifi. Joe. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Mick Schumacher, Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly. They've taken a grid penalty. Sainz, Tsunoda, Ricciardo and Sergio Perez completes our grid. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. Anthony Davison joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you here with us today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn one, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
So indeed, we do have quite a few engine penalties, and so we find ourselves in P10 ahead of our teammate Felipe Drugovich, who's in P11 now. Verstappen, the man who won the US Grand Prix last episode and took the lead of the championship back from Leclerc, he's pushed down to P9, so that's a big positive for Leclerc, who's on the front row alongside Hamilton. He now has a great chance of immediately answering and coming back at Verstappen in the championship. For us, obviously I'm really happy to be starting in P10 rather than P15. Drugovich, though, being pushed down, and Lando Norris qualified well and did not have a penalty, and obviously gained from the engine penalties around him as well. So, you know, all our good work at the US Grand Prix could be undone immediately if we can't charge towards that McLaren. It's going to be tough, but the opening stage of this race may be the best chance to do it. We've got a long run down to turn one. Generally on the game, it's quite a hectic one. You have the tight right-hander into the left. There's sometimes a bit of contact made, so let's hope we can keep our nose clean and gain some positions that way. But we nearly almost decked it into the wall trying to warm up our tyres and get ready. But we're going to park up with the optimum distance right as far as we can into the grid spot, and we've named our car slightly left to indicate where we want to go in terms of space down into turn one. But here we go then, 3 rounds to go as we go to 5 red lights to the Mexican Grand Prix. Lights are out and we're underway, and it is a bit of a slow start unfortunately compared to Verstappen. Drugovich gets a good launch, but then Verstappen has to let off. A load of cars have to let off as they all get caught up behind one another, and into turn one now we find ourselves in P7 already as Leclerc and Hamilton are side by side for the race lead. Leclerc trying to get the lead of the race away from Hamilton, who was on pole. 3 wide ahead of us, Ocon, Vettel and Bottas all tripping over one another as Ocon is squeezed out by Vettel on the exit. The Aston Martin's up into P5, Norris P4 battling Fernando Alonso as we go down the inside of Valtteri Bottas to try and pick back up P7 that we lost into turns 2 and 3, and now we're watching Vettel and Ocon side by side. Rather frustrating because I want to get in the middle of it, I want to overtake one of these guys, but it's tough going. I mean, instead we have to settle back behind Sebastian Vettel, but P7 still pretty damn good. I mean, we made better progress than Verstappen in the Red Bull, who pretty much, I think he got boxed in basically behind Bottas and Russell as well, who got pushed back obviously to P10 in the Mercedes car. Drugovich got pushed down to P14, so that's unfortunate. Hamilton now, though, he's got away in P1, 2.2 seconds. How has he done that? Is something wrong with the Ferrari? Hang on a minute. Leclerc was going slow, and he's in. Leclerc is in. It's a disaster for the man in the Ferrari, as he's in for an early pit stop, and he's got damage, I think that is, to his front wing. So no wonder Hamilton was waltzing away 2.2 seconds better already on the opening lap. So Hamilton now leads from Fernando Alonso in second place. Norris up in third. What, our McLaren driver in the podium positions. That's our worst nightmare. So this, we have to continue to charge on, and we need to try and overtake Vettel and Ocon, and hope that right now this fight we're seeing between Lando and Ocon can maybe continue on. Maybe he starts fighting Alonso and he gets slowed down as we go round the outside of Vettel to get up into P5. We are in a quicker car versus the Aston Martin, so that should be an overtake we're able to make, but now it may be harder to then go on and attack Ocon and then eventually Lando, but we'll see. But this is a replay then of the opening lap for Leclerc. So it's an okay launch. They're pretty much level pegging, I would say, in terms of the launch they got. Then in the late stage, Leclerc tries to send one down the inside. He does get into the lead briefly. Hamilton comes back at him then, side by side. Now, bit of contact there. Is this where the front wing damage was? There was only a bit of subtle contact, though. I didn't see an end plate come off. So if that was the damage for Leclerc, then that was really quite harsh from the game in terms of simulation damage. But no, oh, Fernando Alonso! Oh, no! Oh, that's controversial. Fernando sent it down the inside of Leclerc with a very late lunge, and in doing so, broke his end plate off. So the ex-Ferrari driver kamikaze dives and takes the end plate off of the current Ferrari driver. Now, I don't want to spark any conversation there, but, you know, there's a bit of saltiness there. I'm not wanting to see the new gen in the Ferrari do what he couldn't do in the Scuderia when he was there back a couple of years ago. Who knows? But Alonso with the cheeky dive. To be fair, more than anything, that dive bomb got him second place, basically, but not obviously in the manner you'd want it to. But whatever the case, the Ferrari now with an early pit stop. So Verstappen P6 stands to gain even further in the championship. Like controversially, that could decide the championship with only 3 races to go. You know, it's very much crunch time now between Max and Charles. So let's see how the rest of this race goes. For us, well, we're also a bit nervous here, as Leclerc will be, because we've not been taken out exactly, but we've got our rival in the McLaren up in P3, and so he'll be outscoring us and maybe cutting into that good work we did at the US GP by getting that double points finish between myself and Drogovic. And as things stand on that 5, nothing's really changing in the top 7 order, but there may be some swapsies for P8 to P10. Schumacher defending from Latifi of all people in the Williams. Nicholas Latifi looking to get into the points-paying positions, as now we see Magnussen versus Vettel. Magnussen down the inside. These two are the stars 2 races ago at the Japanese Grand Prix, as they were in very lofty positions, and it's all been quite a good second half of the season, it must be said, for the likes of Vettel and Magnussen and their respective teams, but they're now fighting for P8, and Schumacher does just about keep position ahead of Latifi. I've been told by my engineer, though, Schumacher might have a slight issue with his car, so maybe that's why he's falling into the hands of Latifi, and maybe he's now forming this massive train behind him that's tail-ended by Carlos Sainz. And then the other Ferrari, well, he's miles back. P21 for Leclerc. That's painful. He's going to need a miracle, an absolute miracle, for him to come back in this race and not lose further ground to Verstappen in this championship. So Ferrari fans, look away. It was looking so good at so many points of the season. They've been yo-yoing back and forth all season long. But this now may be the final tide for Red Bull and Verstappen to just see this through as a home run to the championship win. The back-to-back for Verstappen, of course, as the reigning champion into this one. Meanwhile, back in our POV then, we are in company of Verstappen behind us. He's closed up to us, but equally, we are right up there behind Ocon, and we're actually, it's very weird, we're kind of stuck in a DRS train, essentially, with Alonso, Norris, Ocon, myself, and now Verstappen, and I've actually kept up pace, you know, like, I've noticed this on F1 22. I think when you get into a train like this, even if your car is not necessarily as good as the others around you in the corners, because of the dirty air and the DRS helping you, and obviously, you know, the dirty air helping in the respect of the car behind you, you kind of actually are able to stick with the pack, but also equally there's no moves being made. You know, lap after lap here, we're sat behind Ocon and we just can't make an overtake. And I'm waiting for Verstappen to kind of pull through, because I'm thinking he might be more likely to make a move on Ocon, and maybe whilst they're, you know, fighting and he's making that move, maybe I can follow him through for a cheeky overtake on the Frenchman that way. And on lap 8 here, you've been seeing we've been getting very close to Ocon's rear end. Bit of a twitch on the rear for him, but it's frustrating because I still can't overtake him. So at this point, Verstappen only 0.3 behind me. I decide to let him by on purpose. Now, that seems a bit odd because, you know, I've just let him through. You know, we didn't need to. I wasn't being pressurized by him. But I'm hoping he can now make an overtake on Ocon. And whilst he does it, I can then use that. And also, it's so early in the race. At this point, there's no point, you know, settling on, I'm going to hold up a Red Bull for, you know, what the remaining 26 laps. That's so long to go. So I want to try this out. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I just felt like we need to try something here, because surely he's got to overtake him. He's in a Red Bull versus the Alpine. But to my surprise, on lap 10, he's still not really made any inroads. Like, you know, turn 1, he's not making a move. Through this section, he's not making a move. I'm getting closer to making a move on him. On lap 11, I'm having a look around his outside, because Ocon is backing him up so much. And Alonso really is the true one, backing us all up. I'm getting kind of Monaco vibes from Alonso here, just slowing everyone down because he can. And the pace is slowing. We are slowing down to the point where Russell now is gaining on us in P7. So on to lap 12, I start to think, well, we are clearly running lower wings than the Red Bull, so we could have a go at him into the first section as we now gain on him, and Verstappen feeling the pressure a bit and feels it necessary to defend the inside. We have a look on the outside to set up the move for turn 2, but Verstappen has instead outbraked himself and got into the back of Esteban Ocon, and the safety car is now out. What have I just witnessed there? That was so mind-numbing. I don't know what just went on. I made a move to the outside. I wasn't even thinking I was going to get the overtake done on Verstappen the outside. What I thought was I was going to, you know, he went defensive anyway before we even got to the turn. So I thought, okay, he's going to compromise his line. So I'll go to the left. And then maybe we can get a nice swing round for the move into turn 2 eventually. But didn't need to do that, because even before we got to turn 2, Verstappen's just gotten straight into Ocon there, as we've got the nose cam pretty apt for what's about to happen as he loses the front wing attached to that nose. And so now you've got a situation where, well, first of all, we've got a safety car as well, which will change things, because all of us can make a pit stop now for the hard compound. We're going to overtake Verstappen as we enter the pits. Now, I don't know if that's technically, I don't think, allowed, but the F1 game rules did not penalise us for that cheeky little overtake, and we gain a bit of time into the pits. And then we have an optimum turn in. We come in, and our pit crew have an absolute blinder of a pit stop, because we come out on the hard tyres, and we come out ahead of Lando Norris in the McLaren. So, we have got the Red Bull, he's broken his front wing, we've got a free pit stop for the hard tyres, and now we've come out in 3rd place, ahead of the McLaren that we were trying to chase down this entire time, and was finding quite difficult to be honest, for 13 laps of this race. So now, this has changed everything. For the championship, Leclerc and Verstappen are both now outside the point, so it's up to them to squabble, to try and both find their ways up the order into some points for the sake of their championship fights. And then for us, well, here we are on the restart, and we're in a very weird position, because we actually have to legitimately try our best to maintain this P3, because as long as Lando's there behind us, we have to finish ahead of him here on this podium. So we are fighting for this podium, even if it means parking the bus for the rest of the race. As long as he's right behind us, we have to try and stay ahead of him. And here we go then on the restart. Alonso, a bit slow, you know, and we've got so much ERS to use that we pull out alongside him, but now we're not gaining much. So on purpose, I stopped deploying to get back underneath his rear wing to re-get some slipstream, and now we're going to try and play the patient game. Alonso down the inside to fight Hamilton. We swing through up into P1 maybe with a drift and a half. We have drifted into P1 of the Mexican Grand Prix. What did we just do? What the hell did we just do? That may have been the best safety car restart I've ever done in my entire life. That was insane. That was unbelievable. The little clever tech is to kind of stop deploying ERS to re-get the slipstream of Alonso, then allowing him to send one down the inside. We sweep through on the inside, and then we literally, legitimately drifted into P1 because the back end stepped out. But that was insane. Here's a replay of that, just to re-watch that, because honestly, I was so satisfied by that, because right here, that was good thinking by me, I feel, to back out of it, to re-engage underneath Alonso's rear wing, and then pull to the left. Just watch what Alonso does. He sends it down the inside. We go tighter on the line to go down the inside of both of them, and then look at this. We literally, oh my god, the rear end. I was probably so close to spinning that out and having an embarrassing safety car restart, but instead we've styled it out and we've literally Jim Carned it into P1. Hamilton tried to dive bomb me, and instead he ends up still fighting Alonso Alonso really quite hard for P2, so he now effectively almost cut onto live action, because we'll continue this replay camera now for the rest of the lap, because Hamilton regains P2 just about from Alonso, but he gives a real good fight. Lando then still in P4, Ricciardo P7, so with Drogovic outside the points, it's actually so crucial that we try and get the best position we can in this race. Now, I'm not saying that that means we're going for the race win, because let's be real, we've got a Mercedes man in P2, so I think Hamilton's going to overtake us pretty damn soon. But as you can see, Lando is fighting Alonso for P3, so soon the McLaren could be up into P3. You've got the other McLaren in P7, so it's imperative that, oh, Alonso comes in. Oh, does Alonso have damage now? Oh, yes, he does. He had damage on his left-hand side, so it's karma for Fernando Alonso. He gave Leclerc damage earlier. Now he has damage, but this is even worse then. Like I said, was going to say, Lando's in P3. Ricciardo, to be fair, has gone down the order, so he's actually not in the fight anymore. But still, we've got the McLaren in P3. So Hamilton, he'll close up to us. He'll overtake us. There's no doubt about that. He's in a much quicker Mercedes car. But that now means once Hamilton's got us, we have to fight Lando for P2. We had a chance of a podium at the Austrian Grand Prix, and it slipped away from us on the last lap of the Grand Prix due to the Verstappen. But that was he was in a much quicker car. This right here, I mean, Norris is in a quicker car, but we have to fight him even harder than we maybe fought Verstappen to keep that podium in Austria, because we've got the constructors fight on our hands. We've got that on our conscience. So as Hamilton goes through, we don't fight it too much, because I'm going to try and use him for a bit of DRS to give us some breathing space, because we're on lap 17, so we're already kind of, you know, over halfway now through this Grand Prix. So we just have to hold out now for what, you know, about 18 laps, 18 to 20 laps now of this race in P2. We've got 2.8 second gap to Norris right now, so, you know, good. I think it'll take at least, you know, 5 laps for him to catch up to us, so we've got some time before he actually comes through and starts attacking us. So we've just got to try and hold on. No! No! No, no, no! Our engine hasn't held on. Our engine's done the opposite. Our engine said goodbye. Oh, God, it's gone up in smokes. Oh, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. Our first ever proper podium chance, because Austria was always going to be an outside chance. This really felt like it was going to be our first podium. It really did. And it's over. Our second only ever engine failure. Our second only one. Other creators have had so many. This is only our second one. But it's come at the worst time possible. Oh, no.
It's a performance to be proud of from our Mexico City Grand Prix winners today. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes.
On the podium, thankfully, is not a McLaren. You know what I was worried about there was, not only did we lose the podium, was Lando was then inheriting P2, so I thought he would get a podium, and our championship fight with McLaren would be well and truly over, finito. But no, it's Hamilton P1, Verstappen recovered back to P2 from that front wing off, and Russell in P3. So after all that drama with Verstappen's front wing off and, you know, bringing out that safety car that allowed us to get that amazing P1 overtake, he finished P2, Leclerc P4, so he'll gain a small amount of points in the championship going into Sao Paulo. So it's all still going Verstappen's way. Leclerc really needs to come back and answer him around Brazil to then set up the championship finale. For us, though, the McLaren of Norris ended up finishing in P6, so he gets 8 points. So McLaren do re-overtake us for P7 in the Constructors, but it's not by the massive margin I was fearing if he got a podium. But they now are again ahead of us by 4 points now with 2 races to go. And as I've said, Sao Paulo, I think it's going to be very difficult to get them because the AI are very good around there, and I think it's going to suit. I think Sao Paulo will suit McLaren a lot. And then Abu Dhabi, there's a good chance we can maybe do something there. I think I'll rate our chances there, but it's going to be quite close. So yeah, that engine failure has really blown that open again for that fight, because otherwise we would have actually probably, you know, at least I would have wanted to try my hardest to finish ahead of Lando there and get some further points on McLaren. So this P7 fight is going to go all the way to the end, I think, which is going to be proper juicy for you guys, as well as maybe then the potential fight of Verstappen versus Leclerc. But if you have enjoyed this episode, even though it was tragedy for us at the end in the way that happened, after such an epic move for P1, the engine goes up in smokes. If you did enjoy it nonetheless, hit the like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. And if you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.